The next few days are going to be pretty warm, so I'm wondering if now is a good time to water them again. Because the last time I watered was I think around 2 days ago, or was it yesterday? I can't remember. But I've got an objective way to test if it's dry enough, and this is using my moisture meter. So what I'm going to do is just to stick it under the soil right next to my larger cultivars. And it looks like, wow, still pretty wet. I don't have to water today. It's just that the top of the soil looks dry, but underneath it's still quite wet. So I'll hold off on any watering for now. But just to be sure, I'll check in another area. Yeah, this spot seems pretty dry. Starting moist, but it's slowly moving. After waiting for about a minute, it's still showing moist, but it's creeping pretty close to the dry zone. I'm going to test the balls this time. It started off in the wet zone, but it's slowly moving towards moist. After about a minute of waiting, it's still in the moist zone, somewhere between 6 and 7. I guess it's not yet fully dry. But you know what? I'm going to ignore what my moisture meter is saying, and I'm going to water them today because I'll be busy with work over the next few days anyway. So, let's get ready to party! Whenever I water them, I just make sure they're completely drenched and then wait a few days or weeks or months, depending on what season it is, until they're fully dry before I start watering again. Since it's already mid-spring and the temperature is getting warmer, my echeverias are all awake from dormancy. So this time I'm not going to wait for the soil to be completely dry, because right now they're just getting back from dormancy from winter, and they could use all of the water that they can use, all the water they can get. And just to show that my moisture meter is working, I'm going to stick it into the soil again. Yep, it says it's wet. This is a barren bulb, and it has a flower stalk, well, a bloom stalk with a pop on it, and the stalk has already weakened, so it might be time for me to chop it off now. I should plant this separately. To make sure that it grows vigorously, I'm going to chop as high as I can go. So this is here. So it's pretty green in there. I'm going to plant this inside this pot. I'm keeping this pot dry for the next few days, so it's okay for me to just stick it in. No need to let it dry and callus. As long as I don't water this. But of course I need to keep it somewhere dry, so maybe somewhere here. I'll be leaving it there for the next couple of days before I introduce it back to that spot where it can get more sunlight. It has been 3 or 4 weeks since I plucked these, and it looks like all of them have already sprouted. Awesome! It also looks like the heads that I chopped off have started growing some roots, and I found out mainly because this was almost blown away by the wind. I'll leave it here for now, but in the near future I'll be moving this into a small pot so it can grow better. Same story on this Fred Ives. So as you can see, the head cutting has roots now. Things go pretty fast when it's their growing season. All of these black prince sprouts are crowding, and they have been uprooted by the strong winds. So I'll have to pot this up soon enough. Because otherwise, if I leave them this way, their roots will dry out. Although they might not die, but you know, I would have wasted a few days or weeks of growth, because they would have to regrow the roots again. Alright, you must be wondering what these pots are, and some of you might recognize that these are flower stalks. So what I did was I chopped off some of the flower stalks and planted them inside pots. And I'm doing this because I've seen people swear by the fact that doing it this way sometimes causes pups to grow along the stem. So they would either plant it in the pot as I did or just lay it on the soil. And I thought that maybe I could, give it a try and see for myself if it works. So from what I've read, the chances of it producing a pup is really low, not as high as usual leaf cuttings, but we'll see. So you'll probably notice that all of these stems, all of these flower stalks are chunky. So what I used here are flower stalks that are quite thick. I didn't grab any of the thin ones. It's mainly because I have an impression that the thin ones would dry out easily and maybe won't be as successful. But it's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. So we'll see. I might have to gather some of the thin ones because I want to try it as well. So that's what I'm going to do next. So as you can see here, there are still some echeverias that I left with flower stalks on, but most of what remains are more of the thin types. So let me show you. Let's have a better look. So this is a violet queen, and as you can see, the flower stalks are thin and it has those smaller types of leaves. But I'm going to try with them anyway. So I'll get snipping. I'm just using my small pruners, which looks like a pair of scissors. But this should be alright because these are thin stalks. So I wouldn't have much problem cutting them. Are there any more? There's one here. And there are some here. And wow, this is different. So this is a stalk which has some of those larger leaves. And just in case you're wondering, this is how it originally looks like. So it would look something like this. At first it would look like a pop, and this confuses a lot of people. But sometimes they still develop flowers in the middle. So this stalk will elongate and you will get something which looks like this one, the one that I showed you just now. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I'm going to chop as low as I can because I have a feeling this will give me more chances of growing pups. And finally this one more violet queen. And we're good. All I need to do is to gather all of these stems and place them in a pot. Alright, so I've got a pot here and it is decent sized, not too deep, and wide enough to accommodate lots of flower stalks. And these are all violet queens, if you remember from a while ago. I've got several. Most of them are the thin types, so you would notice that, except for this one. This is a bit thick by violet queen standards. So I'm kind of hoping that at least I would get some success with this one. And let's get to it. So as usual, the first thing I have to do is to fill up the pot. So I'm just going to add some soil here. Since these are all stems, I'm just going to insert them into the soil. Just stick them right in. And there, should be good enough. Or that might be too much. Yeah, that's better. Now, start sticking them in. I usually use this one because this is more slender, more narrow than my fingers, and it's harder. So I just create a small hole, stick the cutting in, and make a small mound around it. This is quite top heavy, so I'll just have to make sure that I mound more, just to give more support. As for this one, I think I can just get away with sticking it right in. Same with these. So I'll keep doing it for the others. I'm going around the whole pot. I'm not actually sure if this will work, but I've seen pups develop along the flower stem before. So we'll see. If it works, then good. If not, it's all right. And last one, maybe somewhere here and there. So I have all of these flower stalks in now. since these are fresh cuttings, I'm just going to leave them in this dry soil before I start watering them. I would have to wait until they start pushing out roots, so I don't want them to rot prematurely. So there you go.